Cancer diagnosis is a devastating thing for patients and for families. People feel lost. People feel like their world is not the same anymore. beHeadStrong is there for people. It's pretty amazing how a stranger reaching out and saying, we can't know what you're going through, but we have a sense that this is really difficult, and if we can make things just a little bit easier as you get on the journey, we'd really like to do that. And I'll tell you, from the physician standpoint, talking to patients and talking to families who have been touched by this organization, it just is amazing how that little bit of hope, that little bit of help, that little bit of you're not walking this journey by yourself can make a lot of differences.
She was diagnosed at 11 months, and she was our first child. Everything was kind of rolling along just fine, and she started to have issues with sitting upright. And on Monday, I called the pediatrician to get a doctor's appointment, and the doctor measured her, checked out a couple of things, and then excused herself from the room. Came back about 10 minutes later and said, I want you guys to go in and have an MRI. So the next morning we went in at 9:30, and I distinctly remember leaving work and being like, hey, I'll be back. I'll be right back. I've got an appointment. And we took her to the doctor, and then they brought us into a conference room, and the radiologist came in and said, we're going to call your pediatrician. And we said, okay, why? You're the one that took the pictures. Why can't you just tell us? And she said, eventually she said, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Your daughter's got a brain tumor. And then the next day, it was New Year's Eve, and we were doing surgery. So when they gave her back to us the next day, not only did she have a big drain in her head, but then on top of that, she couldn't do anything. So we were literally handed like this 3-month-old instead of the, almost 1-year-old that we had walked in the hospital with. And part of the fear that you go into when you're doing cancer is the unknown. And the unknown comes with dealing with new territory, for instance, the cancer itself and the repercussions of all the treatments that you do, and having to navigate through that entire world. But it's also the, how am I going to make my house payment, and how am I going to buy diapers, and how am I going to, if I'm not working, then how am I going to do all these things that you used to do so easily? So not having to worry about some of that stuff is such a huge relief. It's such a, that's just one weight off your shoulders, where you get to focus all that energy back into just making sure that that your loved one or your child or your husband or your whatever is being taken care of.
Ron was diagnosed on December 16th, 2013 with a glioblastoma stage 4. On a Thursday morning, he woke up and he had a seizure, and then on the way to the hospital, he was throwing up, and they had to intubate him, and that was before Christmas, and it was really difficult because I told him, I said, I don't want you to take the ventilator off on Christmas Day, because they really expected him to go that day. And I said, I can't handle that. That's not what I want for our family. So they took it off the next day, and then they started working with him to get him over to St. Luke's Hospice. And he even said, he goes, this is so surreal. And so then he passed away on January 1st over there. We had all of our family with him, and they even let us bring our dog in, and he was laying at the foot of his bed when he passed. So this journey's been kind of rough. But Ron was a really big Royals fan. I don't care if the Royals were losing and they were the last place team. He would always say, you stick with your team. And when they went to the World Series, I was so excited for him because I knew that how big of a fan he was. I knew I had some way. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but we needed to get him to the World Series. And I knew it was going to be very difficult for us to pay full price for a, World Series ticket. So that day, that morning, I got up and I just thought, Lord, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I want him so much to be able to go. He even said he wanted to go. So I thought, I'm going to call beHeadStrong. What's the worst thing they can say? I'm sorry we don't have any tickets, or I'm sorry we can't help you. So Hatch calls back and he goes, I have you tickets. Can you come and get them? And I said, absolutely. I said, where do I have to go? So from the doctor's appointment that we missed, we drove straight to the stadium, and we got to park right in front, and I, was able to wheel him in, and we had excellent seats. And the smile on his face, he was so happy. It made him so happy. And I knew that this was probably going to be, I was hoping and praying that it wouldn't be the last. But in my heart, I knew that this would probably be the last time that he would get to go to a ball game, and I think he knew down deep inside it was too for him. But I miss him so much. There's not a day that goes by that I wish he was here. When I was going through my cancer in 2008, he was always, Ron was just right there beside me. He would go to every chemo treatment with me. And I told him one time, he said something about me working, and I said, no. I said, this is my turn. It's my turn to take care of you now. He would say, I only got a year. And I'd say, what are you going to do when you get to be 2 years? What are you going to do? What are you going to say? I said, you got to think positive about this. And I'm so grateful to beHeadStrong, because they made him smile that one day. And we got to be together at that game.